Hey guys, it's Matt with KCSC, and in this video we're going to be going over a couple of on-field warm-up exercises and a routine that you can do pre-game to make sure you're ready to go. So we're going to start with warming up our ankles. This first version is called a half-kneeling ankle mob, so I'm basically trying to keep my heel stuck to the ground and drive my knee out past my middle toe as far as I can. Now if the field is wet or conditions are just not ensuing to put your knee on the ground to get your uniform all gross, you can use a push-up position. And from this position, I'm going to drive my hips to the sky and try to push my heel into the ground to loosen my ankles up, loosen my calves up. The next exercise we call like the world's greatest stretch, or a walking Spider-Man with hip lift and T-spine rotation. So if you look here, I'm stepping out into a lunge, I'm pushing my hips forward, I'm lifting my hips to the sky, and then I rotate. So we'll typically do like 3 or 4 repetitions per side. Then we'll go into a lateral lunge with overhead reach. I like adding an overhead reach to the lateral lunge because it starts to get those shoulders warm. Again, the goal here is to warm up to throw, not necessarily to throw to warm up. So we want to make sure that we get a good sweat going. Now we're going to get into our dynamic series. This is just a side shuffle with overhead reach. Make sure your arms are nice and loose and you're just letting those shoulders move and your hips are kind of synced up with your hands. Then what we're going to do is the arms overhead march. So I'm driving my hands up to the ceiling, bringing my knee up to my waist, and pushing my foot into the ground with some force. It's important when you're doing these skipping and marching variations to make sure that you're reaching as high as you can. We see a lot of kids try to do this with bent elbows. You want to reach as high as you can. Now here I'm just doing a very generic skip, making sure that I'm getting a good arm swing. Again, the more I can move my arms now, the less I have to spend time at about 40 feet or so. There's just a generic karaoke. So I'm letting my hips work, letting my hands be nice and easy. And then we're going to get into a lateral skip. So this is no different than the forward skip. We're just moving side to side and trying our best not to cross our feet. So you notice my hands are very synced up with my legs. I'm getting my upper body warm, I'm getting my lower half warm, and I'm moving side to side. And I'll finish the dynamic warm-up with just a very easy jog down and jog back. Now what we're going to do is our crawling series. So this is going to warm our core up. This is going to warm our shoulders up. You notice Scott's going opposite hand, opposite leg, and his hand and his foot are striking the ground at essentially the same time. Then he's going to get into his shoulder care series. So he's doing a band T. This is going to warm up the back of his shoulder. And again, he's kind of mimicking his pitching stance. So he's getting that leg out in front of him. And again, we're going to target the rotator cuff with this external rotation. It's important to keep your wrist straight and imagine that a rod is going through your shoulder and elbow. Now, shoulder care series right here is something that teams do a lot of, and he's going to start with a really short circle and slowly increase his circle height. Big thing to keep in mind here is that you don't want your shoulders to be flailing all over the place. If you guys focus solely on Scott's shoulders, you'll notice that they're not doing a whole lot of moving. We're looking for good shoulder blade movement without necessarily letting his shoulders come up near his ears. You'll see this kind of butchered quite a bit out at the baseball fields. But again, it can be a very good exercise to make sure that your rotator cuff's ready to go. So give this warm-up a shot before you play.